Healing Light takes you on a journey where you'll explore the nuances of energy. You'll visit the angelic realms and study the ancient wisdom and teachings of spirituality. We want you to reach within and discover the magnificent being that you came here to be. We help shine God's divine healing light by bringing love, light, and blessings into your world. And now, here is the host of Healing Light, Teri Van Horn.
Hello there, and welcome to Healing Light. This is Teri Van Horn, and I just want to thank you all so very much for being here today, because today is like really, really special. I have an amazing guest with me, and her name is Sherri Sengsouvanna. And Sherri has like the most powerful, incredible story. She's just going to like totally amaze you. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to cut out everything that I would normally do, and we're just going to talk to Sherri, because I really want you to hear her story from her, as well as learning a little bit more about her divine mission here on Earth. So Sherri, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to Healing Light.
Thank you, Teri. It's very exciting to be here. And my son Todd is very excited too. He has to say, whoop, whoop.
Well, let's talk about Todd. Tell your story, because I think it's really important for you to tell this, and everybody needs to know who this amazing kid is.
Okay, so my son Todd died in 1993 when he was struck by a car. And he died instantly, and those that knew him in life knew that he had this really big personality, okay? Like, he'd walk in a room, and he would have to make a joke or be funny or be the funny guy in the room. So his really, he was 12 years old when he died, and his unexpected and sudden departure from this realm, you know, it shattered my world, but it had this profound effect on not only my family, his friends, and everyone. Just felt like a big void and a big hole, right? And I think that most anyone who's lost someone close to them can relate to this. So I did, for the next 10 years after he died, I did what other people told me to do. You know, I thought, I accepted the fact that he was gone, but I did pray for a couple of things. I prayed that, you know, if there was a God out there, who I truly believed that there was, that I didn't believe he wanted me to die with a broken heart. And I asked that he show me if Todd was okay, to just let me know that, and if there was any way that I could communicate with him again, that he show that to me. And so those were my two simple prayers every night. And for a long time, I didn't hear anything back. But eventually I started to sort of get some, I'm going to call them whispers from the universe, where, you know, you think maybe that song came on at a very interesting moment where you were doing something, and it reminds you of your loved one. So I sort of got to where I could hear little bits and pieces. I call it tidbits from him. But, you know, again, I just didn't know if I really believed it was him. I did what most people do, is your left brain just starts to take over and say, that's not real. You're just making that up. That's your imagination. And so I got to a point where I was communicating with him in my spiritual closet, and I was very comfortable in that zone. And then one day I decided, again, I'm sure it was my angels and him helping me decide now in hindsight, but I decided that we should leave the world a little better off, because I could actually get communication from him. And I said, if I could just spare one parent the sadness and of grief, and if there was any way that Todd on the other side could align healing for maybe a sick child, and we could spare that parent going through grief, that I wanted to do that. And it was almost like at that moment in time, Todd and the angels and the universe jumped up and did a big high five. It's like, oh my God, she's finally there. This is 20 years later after he's died. So in that time frame, I got to the place where I just thought this was as good as it's going to be. And the fact that I could even communicate with him was something I just didn't tell people, because, I just didn't need people to, think I was crazy. But I knew he was there. I just could, it was kind of like, it was like a dribble, a faucet that dribbles. I could occasionally get a little dribble or a little hit from him, and it gave me comfort. But when I put that request out there to help a sick child and have Todd align healing that I didn't understand, but I believed he had access to, that is where the shift happened. I said to Todd, what do you want me to do? And again, it isn't like a conversation I have with him like I'm having with you, Teri. The information flows in short, succinct words or short sentences of maybe 4 words or less, or sometimes it's quiet and I don't get a response right away. But he said I should go study Harold McCoy's work. And I said, okay. And that happened to be in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Harold McCoy has a non-profit Ozark Research Institute there, and Todd said I should go. So, again, I had learned at that point in time not to question him, okay, let's do that. And then I got to Arkansas they have biannual conferences in April and September. And I got there, and I hadn't even looked at the agenda. And when I did get there and looked at the agenda, I didn't see anything to teach me Harold McCoy's techniques. So I started chewing out Todd. I said, Todd, did you look at the agenda? There's nothing on here about Harold McCoy's technique. And I said, I thought that's what you sent me to Arkansas for. I said, Arkansas, of all the places to send me, you sent me to Arkansas. I'm just chewing him out, literally. And instantly the message came back from him, just go to the classes, Mom. It was almost like he was just talking to me as a child. And he's like, you have no idea. Just go to the classes, Mom. So after 4 days of me going to classes, in the first day of the class, there is someone in the room channeling messages from the other side. In the very first day. And, again, was not on the agenda, channeling messages from the other side. I wasn't interested in that. I was only, isn't that crazy? I wasn't interested in that. I was only interested in learning Harold McCoy's technique. And in that first day, Todd came through, a psychic who was reading energy from the other side. And he kissed me on the cheek and said, my death was no accident, Mom. It sent you on your spiritual journey, and we both agreed to this. And as soon as he said it to me, I knew, my soul knew it was true. And that was the first time I had heard the truth that made sense to me of his death. And then 4 days later, on the last day of this conference, I'm in this angel workshop. And again, I was kind of fussing at him like, come on, Todd, angel workshops, I can go to those in my home in Houston. And again, he just smiles and laughs. He's like, go to the workshop, Mom. and so, yeah, you can feel him laughing right now, right, Teri? It's like, oh my gosh.
Oh, I can. I mean, he's hilarious.
He is, and they had me draw these archangel cards out of like a Doreen Virtue archangel deck. And I can tell you, I knew nothing of Doreen Virtue at the time and very little of the archangels, but I believed in angels, which I think, is probably the reason that he gave it to me in this way. And I drew the archangel card for Metatron, and I didn't know who Metatron was. I'm like, okay, let me look and see what this says. Well, Metatron is the protector of children and for our divine purpose in the world. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense to me that I would choose that angel. So our task was to write a letter to that angel, whichever one we drew, and ask them specifically for what we wanted help with. So this is an excerpt of what I said to Metatron that day. Said, "Dear Metatron, I ask for your help and divine guidance to understand my divine purpose. I ask that you take my hand from this day forward and keep me closely connected to God and my entire spiritual team." And then there were some other things in there too, to bring me love, peace, and calm in sometimes a crazy world. And it was, again, I was very skeptical. I put that letter together, I set it aside, and less than 2 hours after I wrote that letter, one of the people who hosted that angelic workshop, Melissa Johnson, had an Aura app on her phone, and Todd was taken over. He just took over. He prompted her to ask me if I wanted a picture taken with him on this Aura app.
And that's awesome. When we get back from our break, I want to talk about that.
Okay.
And because that is just so amazing. So guys, we will be back in just a couple of minutes, and then Sherri's going to tell us about the dance.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Hello! Join us, Lisa Berry and Michelle Carter, every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for the Mindset Makeover, What's Possible. Get ready to become present, clear, and unstuck, and start living fully, led by your heart. While you listen and feel this transformation through vibration of word, sound, and song, you'll open up to what's possible and experience your shift.
There is no death, only a change of worlds. Chief Seattle. Deborah Livingston is an award-winning intuitive psychic medium whose international services include mediumship, spiritual assessment, animal communication, and spiritual mentoring. She is a published author and a trained shaman. Deborah provides evidential messages from spirit and departed loved ones. Learn more at deblivemedium.com. That's DEBLIV medium.com.
Want to know some fun facts about colonoscopies? Colon cancer is 90% preventable. A colonoscopy can detect and prevent colon cancer in one fell swoop. But here's a not-so-fun fact. Lots of people are so uncomfortable even talking about a colonoscopy that they never get one. If you're 50 or 45 for African Americans, get screened now. Maybe even earlier if you have a family history. To schedule a screening today, visit StopColonCancerNow.com.
Welcome back to Healing Light. This is Teri Van Horn, and I am here with my amazing guest, Sherri Sengsouvanna. And Sherri's she's going to tell us about her amazing dance with Todd. But Sherri, I have to ask you a question because I was thinking about something when you were talking about how you were communicating with him in the beginning. And this is something that I've never asked you before, and I just thought about it a while ago. When you talk to Todd, do you hear Todd's voice, or do you hear kind of like a generic voice?
So I hear him and I feel him more than I hear him.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense. I get impressions, I get thoughts that are not my own, like if I ask a question, and I don't really know, like it has a very open-ended question. It's not like a yes or no. A yes or no I'll get immediately, but it's more like confirmation in my body. Like a yes feels like almost like an electrical light switch that's turned on in my head, and it'll be like a buzz. That's a yes for me. But when it's more open-ended questions, it's me putting it out there and allowing it to come back without restricting it in any way, shape, or form. So it might come in as an image, might come in as a thought, might come in as a feeling, like I can feel him laughing, I can feel him smiling, I can just feel him all over me most of the time. But I think the important thing is everyone feels and reads energy. What Todd wants me to just focus on here is that everyone reads energy differently. It's in the subtle energy field that's outside of our physical body, but it's all around us. And so we all have different levels of perception. So some people might see things that I don't see. I'm not a seer. Some people might hear things. Whatever he wants me to just say, whatever you feel you get is exactly for you.
You know, and that's the way it is for me. I get things like all sorts of different ways. But, and I do want to tell people that we're going to talk about this dance, but this is really amazing. And if you haven't seen it on my Facebook page, go to Sherri's website. It's called dancewithtodd.com, and you can see it and get all sorts of information about this and everything about Sherri's mission as well. So you really do have to see this because it's amazing. So Sherri, tell us about your first dance.
So my first dance happened, as I said, when I'd been in Fayetteville, Arkansas for 4 days on all that crystal energy in those mountains, right? I didn't understand anything about crystals at the time either, about the power they have to turn things up. So that's why he took me there. He took me there to kind of put me in a cocoon for 4 days and have me be in very high vibrational energy. And so when he was ready to make his breakthrough, which is what he did, I was ready to hear it, feel it, and receive it. And so the last day of that energy conference at Ozark Research Institute, Melissa Johnson says, I have this really cool Aura app on my phone. Do you want a picture taken with your son? And I looked at her and I said, well, yes, that would be the coolest picture I would ever have. And I don't care if anybody else even knows what it is. I will know. And so while I'm really eagerly looking forward to this, she starts to take a picture and she said, okay, I'm going to tell him to stand on your left side so you can see the energy in this picture and know that it's him. So she had him stand on my left side and she took a couple of pictures, and then she said, oh my gosh, he's wrapping himself around you. The energy is completely enclosing around you. And as soon as she said that, I felt it. And that's when I stepped into the, oh my goodness moment. What is happening here? And then someone else walked out and said, what's his favorite song? We can get his energy moving to music. And I said, well, he told his sister that he wanted Garth Brooks' song, The Dance, played at his funeral. Now, again, he was 12. Remember, he was 12 when he died. It was an accident. Who says things like this unless it's really spirit talking, right? So he gave me that song, and that song held me for many years. It connected me back to him. And so I said, well, that's his song. And as I reached to my smartphone to pull it up on YouTube, when I went to hit play, I heard his voice for the first time since he left say, "Mom, let's dance." And I was just so shocked. I didn't know what was happening, and I didn't care, because for the next 3.5 minutes, I stepped into this space that I have never been in before, where I could feel him, and the tears flowed because I realized just how alive he really is. And I was so blessed to have Melissa taking those pictures to that song throughout that 3.5 minutes that I recreated the video set to the music, and that's what's available for on our website for the Dance with Todd. It's called Todd's Dance, but it's really available to anyone to tap into that amazing space where they could feel their loved one or Todd or anyone from the other side if you just open yourself up and allow it. The music is very powerful in the healing process.
You know, it is, and every time I watch the video, which, I don't know, how long have I known you now? What, 2 or 3 years, something like that? And it's like every time I watch the video, I get chills, and, I mean, I feel like I'm just, like, right there with you guys.
Right, and there was something very powerful about just the way, you know, again, another divine appointment, where things are all teed up by our angels and helpers on the other side. You can't make things like this up. When you start to just surrender to spirit, to the divine order of things, your life starts to happen in magical ways, and that was the game changer for me. When I came off that experience, well, let me just say, my broken heart was healed. I knew he was alive in a way that was powerful. I couldn't see him, but I could certainly feel him. And I said to him, what am I to do with this? I was almost like giddy. It was so amazing. He said, now that you know, you have to tell other people about me. I said, oh, no. Mom's not going to do that part, Todd. And he has patiently waited for me to get ready to talk to him, talk to complete strangers about him in a way that brings a new message to the world about grief and a new way to communicate with them again that involves being joyful and childlike and fun. And I now understand that that's part of our soul contract together. And so I'm working from this side and he's working from the other side. And the things we have to do yet are, I'm sure, going to continue to surprise and amaze me. But I have learned the importance of surrendering to spirit and following what I really came here, what I was really born to do. And that is to help people understand that the dead are not dead. They are alive, very much alive in a space that we can't see, or most of us can't see, but we can certainly feel them, and we can certainly put them to work helping us.
Oh, absolutely. And I know that Todd has put you in some, I mean, not difficult, but some really interesting situations. He's introduced you to a lot of people. This kid is working.
This kid is working, and he's teaching me. I guess our roles have reversed, you know, but he says also he's teaching me only because in the human experience, we choose to walk through a veil of amnesia when we're born. And so what he's teaching me is really about just helping me remember what it is I already know, but I have chosen to forget, to come into this lifetime and have a human experience, as we all do. So he's really teaching me now to trust and follow spirit without question is one of his favorite lines, especially when things don't make sense to me and I start to debate it with him. Mm-hmm. He'll be like, follow spirit without question, Mom. And I'm like, okay. Because every time I do that, not only does it turn out for my highest and best good, but it turns out generally beyond my expectations, better than my expectations, because I'm not trying to filter it through my mental human mind. I'm open to all the possibilities of the universe, and that's a pretty amazing place to live your life.
It really is, because he basically, okay, we'll just put it nicely, he forced you to go to one of my classes so that we could meet.
Yes, he did.
He did.
This is how he speaks to me. He's like, I'll be looking through an agenda of upcoming events, and I'll just say, is that something that's in my highest and best good to go to? And usually I have a sense before I even ask him the question of whether or not it is. So I'm kind of scrolling down some events in Houston, and I come to your crystal event that you had, 2.5 years ago here in Houston?
Something like that.
And I thought, I kind of have some crystals going. I've kind of got my, my arms wrapped around how crystals can help me. And he stopped me and said, that one. And I'm like, really? That one? Because again, you're always managing to budget in time, and so you're choosing wisely. And he goes, yes, that one. And so I went to that one, and it wasn't about, although your class was amazing, and I learned all kinds of amazing things about crystals again, which he was laughing at me about. He was like, so you think you know so much now about crystals, Mom? And I was like, no. Actually learning a lot. But it was the connection. That's why we came together, was to connect all three of us.
And that's the coolest part, because I love the way he puts Sherri into all these positions. So when we get back, we're going to talk about some other cool things that he has been bringing into her life, and just some amazing synchronicities. So we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
People are always looking to invest in a good opportunity. So what if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change called Better Futures. With your investment, it helps students like me go to college. My name is Charles, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Healing Light. This is Teri Van Horn, and I am talking to the amazing Sherri Sengsouvanna and her incredible son, Todd Tracy. Todd has popped in. He comes to visit me every once in a while. He likes to, actually, he doesn't come visit me very often, but he does like to come play with my horses, I found out. And so Sherri's told me about that. But he's also had some cool projects for his mom. And one of them is an incredible book called Storm of Joy. So Sherri, tell us about this book, because I just love it. It's so beautiful.
So it's so interesting because the message that came after I had to tell people about Todd and, our experience was just write a book, Mom. Just write a book. And I'm like, okay. After I heard it from him like 4 times from 4 different people telling me, your son is talking about you writing a book. When are you going to write a book? It was constant. I finally surrendered. I said, I'll write the book. But it wasn't the divine time because it's like our meeting. There was no coincidence. It was intended to be a connection. So as I intended to write the book, I started from a serious place. Like, okay, this is like my life. This is what happens day in and day out. And Todd said, that's a good start, Mom. Now do this. Now take this out. Now take the parts out that you wrote to convince other people it's true. And I kept going back and forth with every time I thought I was done, he gave me another message to now go back and redo it. And finally, after about 3 versions or 4 versions of this book, I was getting very frustrated. And I put it away with the intention that it was going to get finished, but I really didn't know how. And I didn't really know when. But I told Todd, I'm like, I'll write the book. I've already written the book. You keep telling me to rewrite it. I don't know what you want, but I'm open to whatever you want. And then I really set it on the shelf for probably a year or a year and a half. And then I get the message from him through another person now speaking to me. I was in a class, and the person said, your homework assignment is to write a fairy tale, and it has to start with once upon a time, and it has to end with they all lived happily ever after. And immediately Todd came through and said, bam, that's our book, Mom, write it. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I looked up to him and I said, that's brilliant. It is so brilliant because the childlike energy is a higher vibrating frequency that makes it easier to connect to the divine energy. And so it is a perfect way to introduce our story to the masses because it's really based on the story of my life. If you read Storm of Joy, much of what we already talked about on how he showed up and danced with me, you will see the similarities in the book. And by working with the children are, as I said, a higher vibration where they don't have all these self-limiting beliefs and conditioning put on them by well-meaning people that sort of starts to shut down their divine connection. And so naturally, that's where he would send me into work, is start with the children, Mom, and make it a fairy tale and make it fun and don't be too serious about any of it. Because the joy and the laughter connects you to God and the divine energies, and the lower vibrations of grief that include fear and anger and shame, those are all low vibrations that they don't separate you from the divine, but Todd says they cause you to go lower and be harder for you to hear us. So naturally, a fairy tale is the perfect way for us to tell our story. And it gives you the most powerful tool I have in the toolbox is that every day in my life and in this fairy tale, the queen calls forth her miracles anyway, anyhow, anywhere. And that's one of the most powerful tools I have, because in that statement, when I speak it every day, and people who read the fairy tale will speak it out loud, it's calling forth your miracles in your life as well. It's amazing the way they gave it to me, really.
I love it. I downloaded it on Kindle like instantly. As soon as you posted that it was available, I downloaded it. And I'm going to go see the grandbaby tomorrow. And that's one of the things that we're going to read is your book. So, which I do have to get the hard copy so I can give it to him also. But that one has to get autographed by you and Todd before Luke gets it. But, the book is amazing. I really love it. Now, we can get that on Amazon, and we can find it on your website with Dance with Todd, and on Barnes & Noble?
Yes, the hardback versions are only available at this time through Barnes & Noble. And Barnes & Noble does have a sale, a 19% off sale on the book. So it's only a couple dollars more to buy it from Barnes & Noble than the paperback version on Amazon. So,
wonderful.
Really good deal. And we send a lot of love to Barnes & Noble for getting the hardback cover out there and for running a sale on it for us.
That's wonderful. Now, Todd has shown up in stuff that I've done whenever I've been working with other clients before. Even whenever I wasn't even expecting or thinking about him or anything else, he's popped in. He's got his own little mission thing going on in addition to kind of like what y'all are doing, though. He's working on branching out with that. Let's talk a little bit about what he's wanting to do and how he's working with other people, too.
Yeah, so going back to that connections, right? Mm-hmm. There are no coincidences. Everything is a divine appointment in divine time. And initially when we met, it was just to make the initial connection. And you had at that time offered that whenever I was ready to publish the book, that I should, reach out to you and let you know, and we would do what we're doing right now, an interview on your radio show. And so I just filed that away in my I'm going to call Teri file when the book is ready. And it was the day that I called you or sent you a Facebook message and said, hey, is that offer still open to do the radio show because the book is almost ready to come out? I believe it was that day or it was the next day that Todd showed up in your session in a big way that completely blew both of us away, right?
Oh, he did. He absolutely did. And we do have permission to talk about this from my client, who's a wonderful man by the name of John. And John had lost a brother whenever he was very young and had been wanting to connect with that brother. And all of a sudden, Todd just jumps in and is like, I got this. And, it was kind of like I just needed to get out of the way and let Todd jump in and go do it, and got them connected, and it's been amazing.
Right. And John sent me a very heartfelt message that said that Todd had brought his brother through in a way that had given him a sense of peace that had eluded him for 49 years.
That's right.
Thought that was powerful.
It really was. Yeah. And the interesting thing was, though, that, John and I had talked a couple of times prior to, Todd kind of appearing, and we were having a hard time bringing his brother out. His brother was very quiet and shy about connecting. And, Todd just came right in and helped with it. And so you told me later that that's part of what he wants to do, is to help people connect with their loved ones so much more in a much bigger way.
Yes. Actually, I asked Todd some questions before we got online to see what it was that he really wanted to share with the listeners today.
Oh, good. I was going to ask you that.
Of course you were. So the second book that Todd and I are working on now is going to be more along this line, where it's going to be what we call divine dialogue. It's not so much just Q&A where I'm just asking him questions, but it's more how him and I kind of explore the universe together, if that makes sense. Like the things that really I want more understanding on, he helps me understand them from, well, you know, it's a higher perspective than 10,000 feet, obviously. So,
that sounds great.
So I asked him, you know, what do you want to say? He said, don't take yourself so seriously, Mom. Take your seat on the bus. It's a divine route. Pay attention to the whispers of the universe. That's where you find the answers to your prayers. It's where miracles happen for you and for everyone. Then I said to him, so if you could send a message to yourself as a human, when you were human in this last lifetime, what would you say? Because I remind him that it wasn't so easy for him either when he was here as a human.
Right.
He says, I would say that it was exactly perfect as it was. There are no accidents. Everything happens because there is purpose in all things. You came to earth to grow spiritually. It's the one and only purpose for all of us when we are here on earth. When we leave and we go home to the higher realms, we will remember that instantly. So I would say to myself, laugh more, play more often. You are eternal, and this is just a stop on the tour.
Oh, that is amazing. I love that. Todd does come up with some incredible stuff. And in you working with Todd, you have done some really, really powerful healing sessions also, because you did a really awesome one for me.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I'm just led to work with people with music and vibration and dance to raise the energy and let the angels do the work.
Awesome. Well, when we come back, we're going to let Todd just tell us whatever he wants to do. So we'll be back in just a couple minutes and see what else Todd has for us.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul. Every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
I left my heart in San Francisco.
Hi, this is Tony Bennett, and I'm a volunteer for LifeBeat. The music industry fights AIDS. We all know that there are some new medications for people with AIDS, but there is still no cure. This is why I personally volunteer for LifeBeat. The AIDS crisis is not over, and people need help. Volunteer for your local AIDS organization. They need you.
Welcome back to Healing Light. This is Teri Van Horn, and we've been talking to Sherri Sengsouvanna about her experiences with her son, Todd. Now, you can find her book, Storm of Joy, on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and you can also find her amazing Dance with Todd and more information about her goal and her mission on her website called Dance with Todd. And Todd has like really amazing insight and like this incredible sense of humor. I mean, he is definitely a mischievous 12-year-old boy. That's the way I feel his energy all the time. So, Sherri, I'm going to give Todd free rein, and what else does he want to share with us? Anything.
So he wants to say he really is funny. He always has been funny, and he always will be funny.
And he's so modest and shy, too. I just have to throw that in there.
He does like to be a little show-offish sometimes. And the beautiful thing about that is that's how you know it's their energy. So, like, if you feel like you're connecting to someone in spirit, but you don't know if you're making it up, think about how it makes you feel. Because that sense of feeling is you reading the energy, which you used to do when they were in physical form too. You know, you interact with everyone throughout your day. That's an energy exchange. So loved ones that are in spirit, you know what they feel like. You know what their energy feels like. You have just never, most of us have never really paid attention to it because we've been programmed to only believe what our eyes see as real instead of feeling with our hearts. And so what Todd wants to share is that when you start to trust what you feel from your heart, not only can you connect back to your loved ones on the other side, but you connect back to your God-given intuition that is your divine GPS. He calls it, man, it will get you on the fast track to whatever you want to manifest in your life. Your heart will guide you sincerely. It is your divine guidance. But unfortunately, as humans, we tend to not trust our heart and listen more to our brain, our left brain. And he says, I used to do that too. I get it. I know how hard it can be, but once you start to trust your heart, he said, you don't have to trust it every time. He said, but just trust it once and take action. He said, it's one thing to hear it and feel it, and then if you just put it on a shelf and you don't do anything with it, what good is that? He said, all that chatter that's going on in your brain, he said that's like a monkey mind trying to distract you from what you really came here to do, because part of your purpose is growing spiritually and overcoming those fears. Those fears are put there they serve a purpose, to show you they're illusions and they're not real, as long as you're following your intuition, as long as you're following your heart. And so he's wanting me to emphasize that to people who want to just know how to get started. He's wanting me to share that some of the tools that I used early on was dowsing and using a pendulum, because the pendulum will pick up that subtle energy field, okay, and it'll validate it for your brain, for your left brain to see, oh, yes, that's a yes, that's a no. He's also saying, again, everyone will connect differently. So he loves to say this. He goes, there are many paths up the mountain to the Creator. The only wrong path is when you're running around the bottom of the mountain telling everybody that your path is the only one that's right.
Oh, I love that saying, too, because that is so true. And, one thing that I've learned also, my dad's been gone, gosh, I think this is like the 29th year that he's been gone. And Daddy is very quiet. He is not as outgoing as Todd is. But it's like a lot of times a phrase that he says would pop into my head, just totally out of the blue. And, it's like, I wasn't thinking about it, wasn't thinking about him. But a lot of times that's one of the things that they do and send us is something like that to remind it. I've had my husband, who never met my father, come up with the same totally obscure phrases that my dad would say. And I would just about pass out.
Nice. Well, that's when you know that Spirit is talking through other people to you.
Yes. And so I think that, sometimes when these things happen, we need to acknowledge what they are. And that is the connection from our loved one, letting us know that they're around and they want to share something with us.
Right. So there's two important steps. After you get the information, is take some action on it. Whatever the action might be, just suspend your disbelief long enough to try something, to follow whatever you're feeling guided to do. And then to Teri's point, the second part is acknowledging it, sending gratitude, and here's my favorite kicker, like the exclamation point I use. I say, thank you, universe. I'll have more of that, please.
Oh, I like that.
Yes. Again, a powerful statement. And we know that energy follows, everything is energy. I have two basic beliefs, that I have a benevolent creator and that everything is energy. All my work is based around those two principles. And we know that energy follows the thought, the spoken word, and the written word. But in order of intensity, the thought would be the least intense, the written word would be the next intense, and the spoken word would be the most intense, right? So when I really want Todd to do something or my team to do something, I speak it out loud. I don't care if people think I'm crazy. I mean, if I need to speak to them, I speak to them. And I also like to rub my hands together, get a little energy ball going and blow it out into the universe with whatever I'm asking them help with. And then I just let it go. It's I'm done. I said my prayer. That's the way I pray. And it works wonderful. It works amazingly well.
It does. And, I've said, thank God I live out in the country in the middle of nowhere with no neighbors close by, because I go outside at night and have a conversation out loud with the stars. And I mean, that's whenever I'm doing it. I'm out there, and that's whenever I feel closest to, God and heaven and the angels, is whenever I'm out there with the sky full of stars.
And that's perfect, because that's exactly what Todd wants us to remember, is that we all came from these higher realms, and we're all going back there one day. And when we get there, it's all going to make sense. But he also wants me to share this. I said, is there something that you want me to share with the listeners today? And so I just did some automatic writing before we got on this call, and this is what he has to say to all of you listening. You are all so precious and important to God. You have so many divine helpers in the higher realms to help you with everything. He emphasizes everything, from the big stuff like health or relationships to the little stuff like finding a good parking space. He's winking on that one. He says, my mom has a great prayer for that. It's called, Mary, Mary, full of grace, help me find my parking place. And instantly, if I say it out loud, I'm sure that I'm going to get a great parking place. He said, and if you're feeling sad and separated from someone who has passed over to the higher realms, we know and we feel your sadness. It's important to honor the pain, but God does not want you to suffer. You have divine helpers that you know and trust here. So rather than feeling hopeless, why not put us to work to help you with anything and everything? You will find us in the flow, where there is no resistance, only love, the unconditional love that is your God-given birthright. It is to help you through the sadness and connect you back to us in the higher realms in new ways. You are exactly perfect as you are. We will help you remember this when you are on Earth if you want. You have free will to make choices. So choose love, always love, and you can never be wrong. And feel free to call on me if you want my help. I can assist in connecting you with your loved ones on this side because that's now part of what I do. This is part of the work that I was born to do, bridge the two worlds, seen and unseen, with my mom. My death was no accident. It was a divine assignment and a return to the higher realms. Your death will be no accident either. So laugh a lot and love a lot. Todd.
That's great. But I do have to throw in one more thing, though, because while you were reading that, I kept getting one thing over and over again to the point where I couldn't even pay attention to what you were saying. And that was, and you've got to dance.
Yes. Yes.
You've got to dance.
Dance, because dance like nobody's watching, and do it like in your house with your loved one. Put the music on and feel what you feel and know what you feel. That's amazing.
So thanks so much, Sherri. You guys check out her website, dancewithtodd.com, and get that book too, because the book is amazing and it's called Storm of Joy. So thank you so much for being with us. And I wish you much love, light, and many, many blessings. Namaste.